In any sober evaluation of history's villains, Ted Kaczynski, the infamous Unabomber, deserves a special citation. Not for the profundity of his ideas, but for the singularly pernicious way in which he cloaked his violent inadequacies in the garb of intellectual discourse. It is one thing to disagree with the trajectory of civilization. It is quite another to wage a cowardly campaign of terror against those engaged in the business of advancing it. Kaczynski's manifesto, a rambling, self-aggrandizing screed, pits itself against the march of technology with the zeal of a modern Luddite, yet with none of the latter's primitive honesty. To describe Ted Kaczynski's aversion to technology as medieval would be an insult to the Middle Ages, a period that at least had the excuse of endemic ignorance. Kaczynski, armed with a Harvard education and the intellect purportedly sharp enough to critique the entire post-industrial revolution world, chose instead to retreat into the woods and construct bombs. These were not the actions of a philosopher, but those of a murderer disguised in the threadbare robes of a thinker. A man who would rather kill than argue, maim than persuade. His thesis, that technological advancement enslaves humanity rather than liberates it, crumbles under the weight of its own historical myopia. Has he considered, even for a moment, the raw, brutal lives of our ancestors, not as some romanticized noble savages, but as beings caught in the relentless grind of survival? What of the women condemned to die in childbirth, the children felled by diseases we now casually prevent? What of the sheer grinding poverty that was the common lot of humanity, unameliorated by machines or medicine? To rail against technology is to advocate a return to this grim past, to embrace a world where life is not only nasty, brutish and short, as Hobbes famously remarked, but also agonizingly powerless against the whims of nature. Let us dissect further the grotesque arrogance of a man who, benefiting from the fruits of technological labor, indeed from the pinnacle of academic achievement, decides that no one else should. There lies the malevolence of Kaczynski's ideology, cloaked in the guise of anti-establishment rhetoric. It is not liberation he offers, but a regression to a state of existence so brutal, so stripped of dignity and comfort, that only a mind as disengaged from humanity as his could propose it. His acts of terror, far from being the calculated moves of a revolutionary, were the desperate flailings of a man incapable of engaging with the world as it is. They were not the manifestations of power, but the ultimate admissions of impotence. An impotence before the vast, inexorable tide of progress that he could neither stem nor comprehend. In Kaczynski we see not the enlightened sage warning us from the wilderness, but the enraged child breaking the tools he cannot use, destroying the sandbox he can no longer dominate. Moreover, the gall, the sheer self-importance he must possess to decide for the entirety of humanity that the technological path is wrong. Here lies a form of tyranny far more insidious than any corporate or governmental control he so vehemently decries. It is the tyranny of a single, unhinged mind over the reasoned, collective decision-making that technology and democratic institutions can offer. In conclusion, to consider Ted Kaczynski as anything but a historical anomaly, a dangerous byproduct of an era grappling with the implications of its own advancements, is to grant him a legitimacy he does not deserve. His legacy, such as it is, offers us only a cautionary tale, that the path of progress, though fraught with challenges, cannot be navigated by those who would rather detonate bombs than solutions. In the final analysis, Kaczynski's campaign against technology not only failed to curtail the advance of progress, but, in the sheer audacity of its violence, underscored the necessity of that progress. His life was a testament to the futility of trying to reverse the flow of a river that, fed by the accumulated knowledge and aspirations of humanity, will always find its way to the sea.